Hello, my friends. Welcome to this YouTube tutorial on how to read a tarot spread, which maybe sounds rather general and maybe even obvious, but it's not. I find sometimes teaching tarot that we get really kind of stuck on these individual cards, but remember that a tarot spread is kind of like a sentence or an essay, right? So if you were to think about a sentence, which is a collection of words, what I'm saying to you now, if I were to just like throw the same words at you, but not in any kind of cohesive order, you'd be like, blah, blah, blah. I know she's saying something, but like, what is she saying? So when we can connect with a tarot spread that we understand, and when we can put the cards in positions that properly represent what we're asking about in the tarot spread, now all of a sudden our readings have all of this opportunity for far more depth and far more clarity. And I know it's really fun sometimes to just like pull those cards and be like, what do I want to know? What's spirit got for me? I'm not saying you can't do that, but if you're like looking for more clarity, it's like for yourself or for people you read for, then this is my recommended action, which is to pick a tarot spread that is appropriate for the question, be clear about the question, and then remember to read the cards together. The words that I'm saying individually have more meaning because of the way they're used together. Or if you think about like an essay, if I were to write an essay, but instead of having like one topic I'm writing about, instead of organizing it into those like juicy paragraphs, can you tell I like writing papers? And was just like blah and verbal diarrhea, and you'd be like, what is this mess I am reading? So don't think that tarot is actually so different, because tarot is a language. So don't worry, you don't need to have a thesis. Although really the thesis, anyway, no, okay. Like, how can I make tarot like writing a paper? But my point is, I'm going to teach you in this video how to read the cards together so that your readings read like a cohesive conversation and explanation of what's going on, so that you have clarity for yourself, for your clients, for your friends, whoever you're reading for. Okay? Okay. So the way I like to teach this is with a 4-card spread, being situation for numero uno, obstacle, challenge, kind of the sticky spot of what we're asking about, the recommended action, and then the likely outcome. I always like to say likely outcome because the future just isn't written in stone. If it was, and if then we would all like know exactly what's going to happen, right? We would use our tarot cards. I know exactly what's going to happen. Future's not written in stone. So this recommended action is really important so that you can move ahead in a way that's empowering. Okay, so this 4-card spread, I'm going to teach you how you read all of it together. So in this imaginary reading, this person has asked about their finances. And this person was like, I have money, but I'm always like worried and anxious, and I want to have a better relationship with money. Okay. So the situation is the 7 of Cups. Okay. Don't worry, I'm going to go through everything. I just want you to get the gist. By the way, this is the Crimson Asteria Tarot. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. The obstacle is strength. The recommended action is the Wheel of Fortune. And the outcome for this person is the Hangman. Okay? So right off the hop, first off, we got 3 major arcanas here, which means that, and it's not the situation, but that means that there is this overarching energy that's really big, this financial situation with these major arcanas. This isn't just about finances, but we're going to get into that. So right away, when you're like, whoa, that's a lot of major arcana, this isn't sort of like an everyday issue. There is something bigger afoot. If there had been only one major arcana card, I would have lasered my eyes to that card. Let's say the major arcana was the obstacle. I know then that if that's the only major arcana card in the spread, we have a juicy obstacle we are navigating. And this is really something to pay attention to. Okay. So major arcana draws our eyeballs in like lasers, and that's where we really go to and then start to branch out to the reading from there. And in this case, again, like I said, it's the obstacles. So this is a big obstacle. It is the action recommended. So a lot is being asked of this person. That's probably going to echo in their life in really big ways. And the outcome is, again, major arcana. So they're really going to have this kind of like awakening through their perception of their finances. So we remember, there's usually roots to something, right? We're all kind of onions. Everything's like an onion. Shrek was right. We're always digging deeper. So the 7 of Cups to me is very much a card of like anxiety, because we're wondering like, oh, what's going to happen? So if you look at the imagery, so we can see there's all these different cups with all these different options. So in this context, we see that right now, right off the hop, tell yourself a story when you're reading the cards. Okay, So we have imagining lots of different possibilities and scenarios, probably feeling anxious about it. Okay, so maybe this person, even though they have money, they're really good at being like, what if this thing pops up and then I have to, all my money vanishes? So they might have an overactive imagination when it comes to terrible scenarios that would suck them dry of money. Okay. So their obstacle with strength. So I always like to read the obstacle and the action recommended together. Why? Because the obstacle can go many different ways. And so this action recommended is gonna tell me a lot about the obstacle. So strength is a card of courage, really. The astrological association is Leo, who is an aligned Leo, is very generous, is very brave, is courageous, is loyal, is creative, like all these very juicy sunshine energies. And that's the challenge. So, I can see how people might get confused because you might be like, well, does that mean that they're being not generous enough or like too generous, right? But with the action recommended being the Wheel of Fortune, planetary ruler is Jupiter. And this is really asking you to get out of your current cycle and into new cycles. So the Wheel of Fortune is really a card of expansion. And if we look at the numerology of the Wheel of Fortune, it's 10. And 1 plus 0 is 1, math class, which is associated with the Magician, which is very much a card of manifestation and taking action. So because though it's not 1, it's 10, this is a new cycle that you're being invited into. So now knowing that, okay, so we're being asked to go bigger, which means in strength, you're probably not going very big. Like you're probably not being overly indulgent. You're probably actually just being really afraid, like with that 7 of cups. So now we see like, okay, so there's new cycles that you have opportunities to enter into. You're being asked to play bigger, to know that you have luck on your side and to go for it. Also to remember with this Wheel of Fortune, and I do believe this is linked back to strength pertaining to bravery, to know that like life is cycles. Like life is cycles. That's just it. The moon cycles, day, night, seasons, menstrual cycles, whatever. We see so many cycles. So knowing that like it's so, if you're not making bank 24/7, it's good to have savings, for challenging times, but like there will come a time again where you're making it rain. You know what I mean? Or even if like things are going up now, they won't go up forever, right? So the Wheel of Fortune to me is actually this reminding you to stay centered, to be brave, to have courage, and to be patient. And having sometimes bravery and patience with ourselves as we're getting out of this tendency to overthink and just be like, oh my God, but what if? And then you have this very active imagination where you can think of all the terrible things that will happen that will suck up your savings and then you're screwed or whatever. So, so do you see how looking at the recommended action gave me information about the challenge? If the recommended action had been something like the Knight of Pentacles, which is very responsible, very methodical, very grounded, then I might have seen strength as a little overindulgence. Because strength with the lion is the part of us that's like, roar. But it's kind of that part of us that wants things. I'm going to go for it, like sink my teeth into it, whether it's a relationship or things I want to buy or whatever. But remember in strength, like we're friends with the lion. So we've honored the lion, that part of us that's just going to like dig our teeth in and get it. But there's still that part of us that remembers like we're not just our base desires, we're more, but we understand that our desires have a place in our life as well. So had the recommended action been something more responsible, that would have had an impact on the meaning of strength because these cards are a sentence. And so we see, and then I can also definitely be like, oh, okay, so with the strength, with the Wheel of Fortune being asked to get out of our comfort zone, start new things, go bigger, maybe we're feeling a little afraid. And it's the real issue here could just be fear and a lack of trust in the cycles of life. When life is cycles, period. Life is change. Yeah, and that's another reminder the Wheel of Fortune comes up with. Everything changes. That's the one thing about life that is not going to change. That life is change. And then with the outcome, now I see this really beautifully. So this is the Hangman who's seeing things from a different perspective. They're upside down. So their perspective is very different, right? And the Hangman, you can also see this figure is like chill. Like they're not trying to get out of this place. They are just leaning into it. And that's really one of the gifts of the Hangman. The Hangman has a lot of enlightenment through sacrificing the way we've always seen things. That is something that I think is such a beautiful part of the Hangman, because the Hangman is letting themselves see the world from a different angle. And sometimes that can be very scary. Your ego is like, no, don't do it. Don't change. But your spirit is like, yo, bish, yes, you got to do this. And when we do that in the Hangman, that is, the Hangman's often associated with the story of Odin when he goes down Udryssil, I think I'm saying that right, the tree of life. And he hangs upside down for 9 days, and he's like stabbed, and then he stays there as his sacrifice of comfort, right? Sacrifice, you could look at it as like sacrifice of needing to know, because we don't know what's coming through. He just stays there. And then that's when the wisdom of the runes rise up from the well of weird. And so really the Hangman is this period of enlightenment, being okay with being uncomfortable, right? Being like, I don't have to run from the fears. I don't have to panic. I can just stay here and I can learn from them, which is actually when the fears release their grip on you. And oddly, you become more comfortable. So when you can sacrifice this, like, I need to know everything that's going to happen forever in the future, then you're going to feel a lot more enlightened. And there's all these gifts that come with that. So, so do you see here too, how we started talking sort of about this person's finances, and now we really see it's so much more about, I need to know exactly what's going to happen, and I'm not feeling very brave about the future, and I'm afraid of change, and I'm being small. And so this reading has actually told us so much. So again, with that major arcana influence, this isn't just about how this person feels about money. This is a trust in the shifts of life itself. And an invitation, like you're going to have, like the Wheel of Fortune is fortunate, upright anyways. So when you like step into that role, there are good fortune opportunities that come, but you got to get out of the things that that you're necessarily familiar with, which then does bring the enlightenment of the Hangman and the spiritual growth and being able to really see things and feel things, you're upside down, in a different way. So do we see how this all links together? If you ever want to simplify it for yourself, I'm all about that simplification. Let's get right to that root. Tell yourself a story in like a sentence, maybe like 2 sentences top per card, just to start with, just to give yourself like the gist, so you feel like you got something to hang on to while you're exploring with your intuition. So you could say situation. If you're reading for yourself, let's say, okay, I'm asking about my money and I see I'm in a situation where I imagine a lot of different outcomes and I feel stressed. The obstacle I'm facing right now has to do with bravery, courage, patience. I'm being guided to navigate this obstacle by getting out of my comfort zone and doing new things and inviting in new cycles of experiences, embracing change. If I do this, I will experience life in a different way. I will see my finances from a place of more spirituality, and I will be able to stay comfortable in this new perspective of my life. Okay, so they all talk to each other, so let them influence each other. Don't rush. That doesn't have to go in order, right? Sometimes it's the recommended action that's just going to be like, blah, and sometimes it's the outcome that's going to draw you in. So you don't need to go in order, but do recognize how the cards are impacting each other so that you can have a more cohesive reading. And then, like I said, shrink it down if you want to get to just like the bones of it. Because sometimes when you have that gist, you're like, okay, I know there's anxiety. We're dealing with bravery. Got to go to my comfort zone, changing my perspective. Now you kind of have this base storyline and you can really start filling it in. And you feel held by that storyline, right? You feel held by that initial explanation of what's going on with your reading. And now when your intuition's like, hey, I've got something. I just feel held. And then you can sit and be like, ooh, you know what really is coming to me? Like I'm really seeing, for example, this, like the wings are really talking to me. I wonder if this person's feeling like their wings are clipped and they kind of need to really like break free, spread their wings and soar, right? And then we can really see, oh, and this person's actually kind of got some wings. I wonder if actually soaring, then they'll have a rest and they're going to be feeling calm, like they've soared, they've seen things, they've seen more things, and now they're okay with resting and seeing what happens. You know what I mean? So it could be that imagery, or you could just get like a sensation. You might be like, wow, when I look at this, like I just get these weird mother-in-law vibes, right? Is this someone who puts a lot of pressure on you and you don't feel safe because they've hurt you in the past? Okay, so give yourself the storyline, sit, okay, feel what comes through, and then see how the cards talk to each other. So I hope, my friends, this is helpful for you. If you would like to learn more about reading the tarot intuitively, click the link below to get your freed Mermaid Mystic Tarot EQ guide to help you with your tarot emotional intelligence, because this is not just a logical game we're playing, right? Awesome. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for being here.